Don Hewitt was a television impresario who changed the way viewers saw the news, but the viewers rarely saw him. Until a decade ago, when he pulled back the curtain at 60 Minutes and allowed the public television series American Masters to come in for a behind-the-scenes look. What their cameras captured was the Don Hewitt we all knew, a volcano of ideas and frenetic energy who at age 75 was still a master at the height of his powers.
Yeah, got it.
When you saw him in the hallways or in the edit rooms or offices, you knew immediately that Don Hewitt was the real star of 60 Minutes. It was his baby, his creation, and he ran it to his own specifications.
Stop. Wait, let me hear this. Okay, go ahead.
That community was up in arms.
His vision resulted in one of the most successful shows in television history, on the air longer than Gunsmoke or Lucy or Roseanne or Seinfeld.
Whose story is the Cruz story? We want to take a look at it.
In the cutthroat world of network television, of programming and ratings and focus groups, 60 Minutes ran on the gut instincts of Don Hewitt.
Not a fingerprint, not a hair, not a fiber, no DNA.
This way. Is it in?
Yeah, it's in.
Don and the broadcast were one. It was the culmination of his life's work. The broadcast shape, its vocabulary, its syntax, and its flair were all Don's. He managed to turn news into primetime entertainment with a collection of distinct voices and a range of stories every Sunday night, a three-course meal with something for everyone.
I have all these stories, and each week or month I will decide which 3 or 4 I'll put in the magazine. That's a pretty good way to run this.
The people who watch football and the people who are at home and having Sunday dinner with their families was the ideal audience for a news show.
Sir Howard Stringer is chairman and CEO of the Sony Corporation, but he spent some 30 years at CBS News, some of them as president of the news division and Don Hewitt's corporate boss.
He brilliantly designed that show to give something for every member of that family. He could tease them and amuse them occasionally, but he'd bring them back to a story that mattered and counted and made them feel interested and interesting at the same time.
The secret of Don Hewitt's success was no secret at all. He'd tell the same thing to his colleagues at work and to his competitors at other networks and to young journalists at conferences.
Don,
Yes.
what do you think is the most important thing a young journalist like me could learn from an old school journalist?
That what we do on 60 Minutes is what everybody should be doing. And it's 4 words that every child in the world knows. Tell me a story. And learn how to tell them a story, and you'll be a success.
Don liked to say that 60 Minutes doesn't cover issues. It does stories about people who are swept up in them. It's a technique, he said, as old as time.
Even the people who wrote the Bible were smart enough to know, tell them a story. The issue was evil in the world. The story was Noah. Now, the Bible knew that. And for some reason or other, I latched onto it.
Hewitt devised a job for himself where he only did the things he wanted to do.
Open the door. I'm going to be locked in here for a half hour, but I just have to get this done.
He totally divorced himself from everything he didn't want to do.
Okay, you're calling with a story idea?
The boring and mundane he delegated to others. His job was to watch television news stories and make them better.
There's nothing in the world people fear more than suicide bombers.
Suicide bomber. It's always better as a singular.
There was no assignment desk, no memos, no meetings, no audience research.
Hey, Bevy.
An atmosphere best described as controlled chaos, with Don as the roving referee. The show was loosely organized around the correspondents, who each had their own team of producers and were responsible for coming up with their own stories.
That's fine. I mean, I think that works fine. I would. The only thing I would do is I'd put a little bit more pause in there.
How long is it?
2 minutes too long.
The competition among the shops could be fierce, and rivalries were encouraged.
Have you finished?
Huh?
You finished?
Yes, and I haven't smoked.
How many takes did it?
And I haven't smoked a cigar in there either.
The ultimate competition was getting your stories on the air.
Would we lead with the Kennedys?
Yeah, if I don't know again whether we leave with the Kennedys. I don't know. I'd keep for the second half hour. We got a bigger.
I'd lead with the Kennedys.
The numbers jump at 7:30, and you don't know whether there's a tied-up game.
Yeah, but it makes a better show to start with the Kennedys.
I don't know.
It's a good story.
I don't know.
And he tried to balance the correspondents' egos.
We should put Safer on and we should put Kroft on.
he crafted the network promos.
Hey, Ed, promo. You mean they sent him to death row and they knew he didn't do it? That the cops and prosecutors that put him there may now find themselves behind bars? 60 Minutes, Sunday. Perfect. You mean they sent him to death row and they knew he didn't do it? The cops and the prosecutors who put him there may now find themselves behind bars?
He always, as a showman, could market and promote them better than almost anybody I've ever known in the news business. I mean, he could make you want to see that show tonight with a couple of pithy phrases.
See that? Go back.
The tease, the 45-second block at the beginning of the broadcast that condensed the night's stories, that was Don's particular domain.
Wait a minute, up in arms. Give me the line, they demanded justice.
There was pressure on the
keep
police
going.
and prosecutors to bring someone. Absolutely.
No. Yeah, that's someone, his lawyers say.
That's someone, his lawyers say.
Perfect. Couldn't be better.
Don rarely looked at a script until a story had been edited and turned into television, so he could actually watch it.
Go back to the end of the interview. Forget that. Put what we just did on the top of this and let's just keep going.
He had an uncanny ability to look at something for the first time and know exactly how to fix it.
Stop. I think there's better stuff up earlier.
He saved some of his best performances for the formal screenings attended by the producers, correspondents, editors, and his senior staff. It could go very smoothly, or, as was the case with this Mike Wallace story about an American woman imprisoned in Ecuador, things could get raucous, and Don loved a good fight.
Gullibly, she leapt at the chance. She didn't know that she was about to be duped into smuggling drugs back into the United States for him.
Fellas, look, you can't say what you say to me. You've got to
Wait a minute. Before you start the criticism, frankly, I think that damn...
You're their defense attorney. You're not a reporter.
What?
You're their defense attorney. You've got to say, last month we found 3 Americans in prison in Ecuador who, if you believe their story, shouldn't be.
What?
You can't say they shouldn't be.
What? They shouldn't be.
You're saying flatly they shouldn't be in jail? That you found 3 Americans who shouldn't be in jail. Last month we found 3 Americans...
You're talking about the opening?
Just listen.
I'm talking about the piece.
I'm talking about all the way through.
Don's only real fear was being bored. His only real enemy, the remote control. He instinctively knew what an audience wanted and how to hold their attention, and he saw himself as their surrogate.
You can only be a television producer if you become a television viewer. You've got to sit in a screening room and say, if I were home tonight watching this, would I stay with this or would I... It's the Hey Mildred syndrome. It's the guy who says to wife, hey Mildred, do you know what these guys are talking about? No, let's go watch the basketball game.
Somebody with a slightly limited attention span isn't going to want to be bored for a second. In a perfect world, Don doesn't want to be bored for a second.
Cyber gear. Don't take for you. Just go cyber gear. It kind of dawned on me once that I may be the only person I ever knew who has turned an attention deficit disorder into an asset.
But he was also a superb journalist, widely considered to be among the top editors of his era, print or broadcast.
There are lots of producers in this business. There has not been, and I don't think there ever will be anyone quite like Don Hewitt. One is enough.
Barbara Walters was a Hewitt friend and competitor for decades.
You know, there are a lot of news snobs in this business, especially in the past. I'm in hard news. Don was not a news snob. Don was an editor and a producer, but he also had the common touch. He could relate to the people.
Think he was concerned about the ratings?
I think that Don may have been one of the most competitive people I know.
And it's true. The first thing he did every Monday morning was to call the research department for the overnight ratings.
Okay. How we do last night? I'm afraid to find out. Hi, hon, it's Don Hewitt. You got the fast track nationals from last night? We dropped under 11.5 on being... You know, most people would pray for 11.5. Oh, yeah. At 10.8. That's pretty bad. What was the share, 20?
Don said he worried that he had ruined television news because he had made it profitable.
Now, how did Disney do?
And that profit, not quality, would become the driving force for network executives.
All right, it looks like we'll have another good season.
Don had nominal bosses at both the news division and the television network, but the best of them allowed him to operate independently in his own fiefdom. CBS President and CEO Leslie Moonves held him in awe.
He was unrelenting. He was unbelievably smart. incisive. He knew the medium as well as anybody I've ever met.
Mildred calls Hewitt's contribution to broadcasting and to CBS monumental.
Throughout the history of CBS, we've had a lot of great things that happened at our network, from sports to entertainment to news. There is no show that meant more to that network then and today than 60 Minutes.
Hewitt took great pride in the team he'd assembled, the correspondents, the producers, the editors. He seemed to feed off the energy of his staffers, some of whom were young enough to be his grandchildren.
Everybody who works for me is smarter than I am. They're better read, they're better educated. I really am in awe of all those kids. They don't pander either to the audience or to me. None of them are afraid to argue with me, which I love. I don't want anybody to work for me who wouldn't argue with me. And somehow, with their brains and my fingertips, it works.
Everyone on the show knew there was no one smarter than Don Hewitt. He'll be remembered as the boss and head cheerleader who ran 60 Minutes with a nearly insane enthusiasm.
Mary! Can't follow her to the ladies' room.
Sprinting down hallways and into offices, trying out his latest brainstorm.
You mean they sent him to death row and they knew he didn't do it?
Or insisting on everyone watching his newest favorite piece.
You starting to edit?
Not quite yet.
Okay.
But,
Wait, you're looking at the transcripts? Hey, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
Hey, come here. You got to see this. Isn't this terrific? Isn't this the best?
We got a piece to look at.
That was Don Hewitt.
In a moment, some of Don Hewitt's favorite stories.